Hey, press. I'm working on getting everybody their login, so you're on mute.
I'm gonna hop out of this and hop in like a normal participant, okay? Danny's gonna run. All right.
Hi.
You're on.
How are you?
Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for being on.
This is live in real time right now, huh?
We're live in real time. Yep, people are pouring in by the boatload, so I was just gonna give it another minute and let everybody jump on. Now let's see, Ben, we're webinar style though, so you won't be able to see them. Oh, you're already getting questions wanting to know if you killed that bear with your bare hands.
That bear behind me is still alive, actually.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, let's see. Making sure that you guys can see Ben. You may just need to go to speaker. Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Perfect. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. And what I'd love for you guys to do is go ahead and start posting any questions that you have. Jimmy Welch, I did get your question for Ben, so I've got that. Any questions that you guys have, we'll post in the chat. Ben, we're very graciously appreciative of you. You've been on the top of our Ohio Valley region list of them, our agents wanting to hear from you for about 3 years, as long as I've been working in the region. So thank you for giving of your time.
Oh, it's my honor. I was excited when you guys reached out and asked and said, hey, would you be willing to talk to the Ohio region? My response was yes. And then when you guys reached out and said, what do you charge? And I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would I charge to help people in my own company? That's stupid. So nothing. And then you said, hey, can you send us a professional photo? And I said, I only have one that's like 10 years old. So I sent a bunch of dumb pictures of myself, which I noticed that you guys did not use. You dug up a 10-year-old professional photo when I was tall, tan, and skinny, Dana.
Well, I'll tell you, my director of ops got those and she said, Linda McKissick will murder me if I put the picture of Ben in one of the shirts that had a funny word on it. So we were laughing secretively about that.
I think it said, don't be an asshole.
I think I think it
Maybe I'm
did.
not supposed to say that on a call, but that's actually what my t-shirt said. And I think it's a pretty solid rule, Dana. I only have 2 rules in life: work hard and be kind. Like that's it. You can get really far in life if you work hard and be kind.
Yep,
That's
I love
pretty
it.
good
I agree.
philosophy.
I love it. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I'm going to field some questions for you too. We will have some guests, some non-KW folks on too. So I thought, Ben, if it's okay, I know this isn't your MO typically, but would you give everybody a little bit? Just start with your background and kind of your story throughout Keller Williams to where you and your team are today.
Sure. I'll give you a kind of a quick version. And yes, I do hate in general talking about myself. I've been in the real estate business for over 17 years, going on 17 and a half. Prior to that, I was a cable guy. I worked for Comcast Cable, which, Dana, means I know what the worst customer service in the world is like. So it's only improvements from there. I quit corporate America because my joke is that I got canned more than tuna. I had been laid off 3 times, and I had laid off a group of my employees a couple times. Every time somebody wanted to change the stock price, they cut people, and I didn't want to be a part of that. I wanted to have control over my own destiny. I had already bought a duplex, and I lived in one side of the duplex and rented out the other, and the other side covered 100% of my mortgage. Well, the first agent I hired, he was a I don't know how to say it. He was a shitty agent. Like he sucked. Like I said, hey, I want to buy a duplex, and he kept showing me houses and condos, but I wanted the deal where the other side paid 100% of my mortgage so I could live for free. And he couldn't do that. So I started looking for homes on my own, and I found a duplex somebody was willing to sell. And the only other agent I knew was an agent named Catherine Gilbert, and she was the agent at Keller Williams, nearly 3 counties away. I called Catherine. I said, I found a duplex. I talked to them. They want to sell. I'm approved to 230. Will you offer 227? And she did, and they didn't counter, and they accepted it. And I bought a duplex, and I rented it out for $1,200 on one side, and my payment was $1,210. So I got to live for $10 a month, which was perfectly worth it, because when I moved in, there was 3 college girls next door. And at that age, that was quite exciting for a young man like me.
You hit the jackpot.
Yeah. The real jackpot in that scenario, Dana, was my agent, instead of giving me some crappy refrigerator magnet or some Lowe's gift card, she gave me Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent book as my gift. And she knew that I had done sales in the past, and I had knocked on doors, and I'd done cold calling, and I'd done all the worst parts of generating business. But I was doing it for a $5 bonus from Comcast or a $10 bonus from Comcast. And she knew that if I put that same effort towards something that paid at a different rate, that it would change my life. And she was right. So I joined the company owned by the guy who wrote the book, Gary Keller. And the difference is I read the book first. So when I read the book, I knew from day one I didn't want to be an agent. And there's nothing wrong with being an agent. I still sell 18 to 24 homes a year, every single year. Most people wouldn't think that, actually. I do every single year. I try to make sure I do 1 or 2 deals a month. But I wanted to own a business. My family was poor. My mom was on drugs. They never owned real estate. I wanted to own real estate and own a business. I didn't want to just have a job. And in order to do that, you have to hire people, and you have to be willing to give things up, so that you have newfound time to do something more productive. So on day 1 at Keller Williams, I asked myself the question, how many homes would I have to sell for me to be able to afford an assistant, so that I could give up the things that I was horrible at, which was basically everything in a transaction other than negotiating, listing pres, or buyer consult. And I did. I figured out it was about 25 homes, and I sold 25 homes. I made about 150 from that, and I saved the vast majority of it. And I saved enough to hire an assistant. I saved up 3 months of her salary. Her name's Jolene. She's still with me today, 15 years later. And Jolene and I started building the Ben Kinney team, so to speak, because I couldn't think of a better name. And we went from 25 sales on my own to 84 sales in a year with an assistant. And that really showed me that if you get the things off your plate that are unimportant, and you focus on the things that actually drive a business, that you don't just increase a little bit. In my situation, I tripled, Dana. And then the next thing I did is I opened up the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and it said the next thing you hire is a buyer. Well, actually said the next thing you hire is an assistant, but I don't need two assistants. The first one I hired was awesome. So she could do everything. So I hired a buyer's agent, which was the following step. And with a buyer's agent, I went from 84 sales to nearly 150, 143. And from that point on, it was just about building more infrastructure and building a bigger business and investing my profits into other things. So now we own Keller Williams franchises, Keller Williams regions, the UK, coaching, training, technology, mortgage, title, escrow. We're trying to really provide everything that a consumer would need when they think about homes, and everything that an agent would need when they think about their business. So that's been my journey of 17 years. My weight's been low and it's been high, and it's been low and it's been high. And I've been, there's all these pros and cons to building a business over the years. So
yeah. I'm just curious, and then I'll get into the questions, but what's been the hardest part about it? And then what's been the most rewarding?
It's a really good question. And the right answer is that at each step of your life, there are things that happen that are hard. And depending on where you're at, you're going to have different hard things. But I would tell you the overall hardest part about my career was thinking that more money, being number one, owning a car, buying the house I want, having a certain amount of money in the bank. I thought for so long that those things were going to make me happy. And I've had all the success that somebody could have in the real estate industry. And at the end of the day, it didn't make me happy. And that was the hardest thing that I had to figure out, that happiness is something you work on every single day. And it's not going to come with more GCI or more homes sold or a bigger business or a ranking or a nicer car or whatever else. That doesn't create happiness. Happiness is the ability, I call this wealth, actually. Here's my definition of wealth, Dana. It's the ability to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Mm-hmm. And there's things that make me unhappy when I'm stressed about money, because I made bad financial decisions, which is a mistake I made earlier in my career. When I'm around people that don't energize me, when they leave an interaction, maybe they feel okay, but I have less energy, and I don't like that. Or when I'm doing things that I suck at. There's lots of things in this world that I'm really horrible at, and I should be able to build a business that would allow me to hire people for the stuff that I'm horrible at. So honestly, if I was being really transparent with everybody here, that's been my biggest challenge. And it's also been, for the last 4 years, what I've been working on the hardest is how do I find happiness and contentment along with success, and trying to find a way to balance my faith and my health and these other things that are important to me without sacrificing any of them.
Yeah, you just reminded me of two things. One is one of my favorite quotes ever by Craig Groeschel, and it's the quickest way to destroy something is to compare it to something else. And I love that because I think a lot of these 300 plus agents watching right now probably are in the same camp as you and myself, where it's like the next thing and then the next thing, and then you think you're high and then you think you're and really, I love your definition of wealth, the ability to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, right? People
think there's these benchmarks in their life. When they get there, they're going to be happy.
Yeah.
But usually what happens, let's say it's a mountain, and we climb to the top of this mountain, Dana, you and I will finally made it. You would have to drag me to the top, but we would make it to the top of this mountain. And we get up to the top, and for 5 minutes, we high five and we hug and we say, hey, we did it, we did it, we did it. And we start looking around like, oh, damn, there's a bigger mountain. Like, holy crap. I couldn't believe we climbed the medium mountain, and there's actually a large mountain over there. So we're like, crap, we've only kind of succeeded. So now we're depressed, and we start trudging down the mountain, and we go start climbing up the next mountain. And then we wait 2 or 3 years to get to the top of that one. And we get to the top and we high five, and for 5 seconds, we're happy. And then there's an XL mountain, right? And
yep.
You don't want to do that. You got to find joy every single day and find happiness and find wins. Like, what can you do every single day? So when you got home and you get to see your honey bunny, you look and you say, hey, honey bunny, give me a high five. I freaking killed it today. Like, yeah. I won today. Right.
Yep.
And Via, who runs our brokerages, her and I had this conversation, and I don't want to make light of this epidemic and the health crisis and all the other things that are going in the world, because it's serious in my mind. She said, "We're going to win this." Like, and I looked at her and I said, "I didn't know they're giving out trophies for this whole COVID crisis, but if they are, like, I'd be happy for us to be the recipient." So how do we find a way so that we win more than we lose in 2020? And it turns out we did okay. We won more than we lost. And
I was hoping that you would share about that, because I would love, I know we're getting a ton of questions, so I'll try to field them through to you as quick as I can. However, last year, will you talk a little bit about how your team pivoted and anything that you did different and how you guys really won last year? Because you did in a major, major way.
Yeah, I started a habit probably a year or 2 years ago where I read every morning and I read every night, and consistently. And usually it's a book. And then when I'm done with the book, I read the news. So probably November, December in 2019, I started reading about what was going on in China. And I thought to myself, this could be a problem. And then the very first case was in Kirkland, Washington, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, and also where I have one of my offices. And the moment the first case hit my world, I drug everybody into my office or Zoom, and I said, "Hey, everybody, I don't want 2008 to happen to any of us. We're going to make a change." And I said, "I no longer have manager positions available in my world. The only positions I have are people that reduce expenses or increase revenue. And if you can't do one of those two things, I don't have a role for you, unfortunately." So every day we met at 4:30 in our different companies and departments, and we reported what we were able to cut or what we were able to do to increase income. And we made significant cuts in 2 weeks, hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses. And I did it in my personal life. I cut cable TV channels, and I just tried to be example and showing them that I was doing it in my life as well. And then I looked at what the next step was. And the next step for me is you can't reduce expenses to get yourself out of a recession. You have to increase your production and productivity. You can't get rid of your CRM. You can't get rid of your lead gen. You can't stop doing your activities. You can't fire your coach. Like there's 4 or 5 things that guarantee success in real estate. You can't get rid of those. That's not going to solve your problem. Maybe if you're losing your house and everything else is going away, you do that, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is that we thought that COVID was a snow day. We thought that what was happening was this opportunity for us to kick back and have a couple of weeks off and take a break and enjoy family time. And it wasn't a snow day. It was a season. And that season of our life is actually still going. And those who treated it like a season and not a snow day saw 2020 be one of the best years of their lives. And those that didn't, you had either some sacrifices or some life changes, and that's awesome too. Many of us learned how to be teachers of children or workers remote, or how to get to know your spouse again. Probably more time spent with spouses since honeymoons last year. And there was a lot of life changes that happened, and those can all be wins as well.
Yeah. What's your advice on, I know Gary says and has said that this year he thinks will be just as great as last year, because last year, right, was the best year in real estate our country's ever seen. What are you guys doing to prepare for an upcoming shift, and what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Gary on 2021. I mean, there's a few factors that dramatically affect the viability of the real estate market. Number one is interest rates, and there's no indications that interest rates are going to go down. Right. Number two is housing inventory. And I assume Ohio is much like the rest of the world, where there's low inventory. And with low inventory and low interest rates, demand stays high. The only thing that could affect that could be potentially defaults, unemployment, a recession, but that takes 9 months, 12 months, 18 months for that really to show up in our world. But here's the good news. There actually isn't a good market for our clients. There's a good market for buyers, which is not now. And there's a good market for sellers, which is now. So the market shifting is not going to change what we do. It's just going to change our tactics and the words that we use in the conversation, and maybe who we focus on. In the downturn of 2008, 2010, my number one expense was listings unsold.
Hmm.
It was so easy to get listings. I went on 240 listing appointments and I listed 217 of them that year, which sounds really awesome, but most of them didn't sell. So I had signs, lock boxes, time, energy, photograph, marketing, flyers, all that kind of stuff. And it was a huge expense. In a hot market like we're in now, your number one expense is buyers unconverted,
Hmm.
is leads not being converted. And it might shift to inventory is more plentiful, but you'll know that if you pay attention to market, watching the stats every day. Are you looking at inventory counts and price reductions and number of expires and just tracking it on a weekly or monthly basis? You'll start seeing a trend. If you're surprised by a shift in the market, you had your head buried in the sand, you weren't looking at a few very basic metrics
Yeah.
that are all available in your MLS.
You actually walked right into one of the questions we got the most, and we just came off of, we had a mastermind with the top 100 agents in our region, and then we of course invited them all to listen to you amongst everybody else. But one of the biggest questions and topics that they wanted to learn from you and to mastermind on this year was how are teams and agents, how are they lead generate? Well, really, how are big teams like yours getting listings in a market where there isn't a lot of inventory? Anything you would speak into that?
I'm going to say something, and you guys are going to be a little frustrated or upset with me because it's not freaking rocket science. Here's a philosophy that I've adopted with my sales team that's helped me a lot. I believe that everybody lives somewhere. Now that sounds really stupid, but hear me out for a second. If everybody lives somewhere, the vast majority of those people own it, or they're living somewhere where somebody owns it. And the problem that real estate agents get into is they think buyers are just buyers. They think their sphere is just sphere. They think open house attendees are just open house attendees. So the way that we generate listings in a tight market is we first focus on what we want the most. Now, let me give you an example. If you were wanting to find a honey bunny in your life, one of my advices would be to make a list of what they look like, what they sound like, what they act like, what their values are, what they want to do, what they're like. Make a list. If you're looking to hire an assistant or a buyer's agent, make a list. What do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they behave like? What's their track record? Like, make a list. Just write it out. And here's the reason. If you don't figure out what they look like, how are you going to recognize them when they're standing in front of you? Your honey bunny is sitting in front of you at Starbucks or on the other side of a transaction, or your future hire or business partner or whatever. They're sitting right in front of you right now and you're missing it because you haven't taken the time to see what they look like. Well, it's the same thing with finding listings. If you take the time to think about what does a seller look like, and you believe that everybody lives somewhere, and you say, I'm going to start my conversation off with a focus on listings, here's what it would sound like. Dana, if somebody came into my open house, an average agent would say, hey, what brought you in today? Or are you looking for a home? Or like kind of an obvious question, right?
Yep.
I would say, Dana, thanks for coming in today. What's funny is people come into my open houses for one or two reasons. One, they're curious what their own home is worth because they're thinking about selling. Or two, they're thinking about buying. Which one are you? I don't ask, what are you doing? I give you two choices, Dan. You got option one or number two. Now you could come back and say both, which I'm totally winning, but I started off with the one that I was most focused on.
Yep.
Now, when somebody calls on one of my for sale signs, I'll give you guys a script for that. It might sound familiar to you because it's going to sound a little something like, hey, Dana, you know what's funny is that most of the people that have been calling on this particular property, they're either a neighbor and they're curious what their home is worth because they're thinking about selling, or they're a buyer and they're thinking about buying. Which one are you? Now, you guys may be generating a lot of leads from command or you're doing your Facebook ads. Like, what do you say to them? Well, I'd say, you know what? I saw that you just registered on Facebook. You're looking at properties. Here's what's funny is that most of those people are one or two people. One, they're curious what their own home's worth because they're thinking about selling, or two, they're thinking about buying. Which one are you? Ask for what you want. Have those conversations. If you're calling your database in your sphere, use this script. This made me more money for my sphere than any other script in the world. Dana, just out of curiosity, what are your real estate related plans for the year? Not some cheesy Brian Buffini crap, oh, by the way, right? Not some pressure, like aggressive Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry thing. Like, no, just, we're not that way. We are empathetic, kind, sincere people that want to provide a service. What is the service that we provide? We help people make great decisions when it comes to real estate. So ask the question, Dana, just out of curiosity, do you have any real estate related plans for the year? And then smile at them and wait for them to answer. Right? If you did that every day for 20 people, you'd be super rich.
Yep.
Like
Somebody
flipping coffee, boat rich.
Somebody just commented in the chat and said that by doing that, you're eliminating the car salesman response of like, we're just looking.
Yeah. We don't want to be slimy and pushy or cheesy. Like we want to sound sincere and authentic and that like we care. So here's another thing that I give you, Sean. Thank you for saying that. What is it that we actually do? What is it that we actually do for a living? Do we sell shit? Are we just somebody that goes out there and we sling houses like we do, like other people do cars, right? Are we trying to get somebody to sign up for a cell phone, right? No. What we actually do, Dana, is we help people manage their wealth in real estate.
Yep.
And it's what I'm best at. I help people make the right financial decision for them and their family. And I help them answer the toughest questions that relate to anything real estate, renting, investing, buying, remodeling. I am here to help my people manage their wealth in real estate. So I want you guys to think about that. Does your business card say, I sell shit? Or when you hand it to them, is that what they feel like? Or when you talk to somebody, do they say, gosh, you know what? I can feel like this person has my best interest at heart. Now, I'll give you an example of companies out there that don't do that. Redfin, Zillow, Open Door, they are, in my opinion, what I call the Tinder of real estate. They are interested in a one-night stand. They want to come in and then basically screw you and send you on the way because they want to make it easy. They press a button, sell a house. Doesn't matter if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. Doesn't matter if it's the right price or not. They want to make it easy. Well, we are not easy individuals. Our parents raised us right. Like we are individuals that say the truth. We're going to sometimes tell people, maybe now's not the right time to sell. Instead of selling, maybe you should actually keep it and buy another one. Here's why. Because Dana, I've never driven by a home that my dad said, gosh, I'm sure glad I didn't buy that 30 years ago.
Yep.
Right. We do what technology will never do is we consult people on the right decision for their life and their family and for their goals. And we help people build wealth through real estate. And it's a really important phrase. And I hope you all wrote that down.
Yeah. You know, actually, Ben, that reminds me, you hear Gary say over and over that real estate will always be a belly to belly relationship based business. And that is exactly why what you just said.
Yeah. Which forces us to become experts in things that we may not even be interested in. Like one of the books I read a couple of years ago that's been a life changer for me is called Tax-Free Wealth.
Yeah, love it.
It's Tom Wheelwright. He's actually my coach. I hired him. He coaches me twice a month on all my tax related issues. But the book walks you through 99% of what Tom has taught me. And it allows me to give insight to my customers about the tax benefits of owning real estate, things like accelerated depreciation, cost segregation, the benefits of investing in real estate, the ability to rent your own home out for up to 10 days a year and take it as an expense, but not take it as income, 1031 exchanges, conservation easements, like all these types of strategies that if you sat down with somebody, they say, gosh, that sounds way different than the last agent that met with me who was just trying to get commission. Well, what else would you read? You would read The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. You would learn about commercial real estate or business opportunities, not necessarily because you want to do that service, but you want to be the person that your database calls, and then you refer it to somebody, and you have to know enough that they're going to call you whenever they have a question in that bubble that we call real estate.
Yeah, you have to be the expert, and then that's how they have to see you as 100%. Oh man, okay, we got a lot of questions and we got 30 minutes. Okay, let's see. Will you touch on talent? Just what do you look for in talent? Actually, I just saw Sean posted it. We'll go to Sean's question next. Let's do talent first. What do you look for? Where do you find it? How do you keep it? Talk to us about talent.
I've had a lot of agents that say, I can't find any talent, or there's no talent in the area. There's nobody around here that's willing to do this. And the very first question I ask them is, how much time do you spend every single day looking for talent? And if they don't do that, then they don't have a talent problem. They have a priority problem. I once needed a position in my tech company, and I realized that if I did not find that position, that my company would be in jeopardy. I sent 1,000 messages on LinkedIn in 6 days. I sent emails, I made phone calls. I finally found a guy who was living in Spain with his wife that responded, that I flew out here and hired and relocated because I had such a specific need and I had to solve it. And I couldn't take 3 months to figure it out. I read a book earlier this year that said, don't take 18 months to 2 years to do something you could get done in 2 months.
Wow.
Right. So when you have an issue like you need a admin or a buyer's agent or whatever, my first question is, how much time do you spend every single day doing it? Now, you might look at an organization like ours and say, gosh, Ben has a lot of talent. Or how does he attract these people of those caliber of production? Or you see these people that have been really successful. What you're really seeing is you're seeing the winners. You don't see all the turds that I brought in that I screwed up. You don't see all the bad hires, the bad life choices. Like if you're married, then you get to focus and we get to see you as somebody that picks somebody awesome. We don't see all the bad dating mistakes you made prior. And the part of my benefit is that I've screwed up more in a shorter period of time than most people. So I start learning what talent looks like because I've interviewed more than anybody else, and I've hired and I've made mistakes and I've lost some. If there's 400,000 people in the Navy, there's only 4,000 people that are Navy SEALs. I'd much rather have a Navy SEAL protecting me, but it took the Navy 400,000 to find 4,000. Why would we be any different? If you want to have a team of SEALs, you got to build a Navy.
Love that. Love that. Okay. So then once you find them, how do you keep them?
Keeping people is very simple. People stay in business with you because they like you and they care about you. They like you and care about you because you like them and care about them. Mm-hmm. People stay in business with you because you're hitting your goals and they're hitting theirs. Yeah. Most leaders never take the time to ask their people what's important in their world, what they care about. And I take the time to know my people's, it's probably illegal, I don't know. I know my people's financial standing. I know their career goals. I know their relationship issues or their relationship status. I know what they want to do for their kids or their spouse. I know their health goals. In some situations, I know their weight because they text it to me every day. Like I know their faith. I am a part of all of those areas because I understand that if I can help them, or at least I can be there for them in those areas, they're never going to go anywhere. Which is why we have countless people that have been with us for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, 14, 15. It's not a money situation. It's they're accomplishing their goals. Now, I had a person say to me once, Ben, I don't want to have a really big business like yours. I just want to have like a smaller size team. I said, that's awesome. But have you asked your people what they want? And they said, what do you mean? I said, having a small business is selfish. Unless you go back to your people and say, hey, I want you to come work for me, but it's always going to be a small business. We're always going to make the same amount of money and you're never going to make any raises. And you're never going to have an opportunity to have what I have. You're just going to come to my nice house and see my kids' good school and drive in my nice car. And I'm going to show you pictures of my nice vacation, but all of your stuff is going to be shit. That's what having a small business says. So if you're going to have a small business, be a solo person and work by yourself. Don't have a small business when you have great people that work for you. Your business has to grow to the size that your people needs it to be.
Love that. Love that. Okay. I'm losing my questions because I'm writing so much. I've heard Gary say having a small business is selfish. And I do think a lot of times people look at big teams like yours and say, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Or it's too big, or whatever. And so I think I love that. Having a small business is selfish for sure.
What's the difference between a business that sells 100 homes and a business that sells 1,000? Almost nothing. They've taken the time to build a better foundation and create more systems. It's not more stressful to have a bigger business than it is a small one. It's stressful to have a shitty business. If you have a business that doesn't have a profit, if you run a life where you don't have reserves, if you go out there and spend above your means, if you hire crappy people, you could have a crappy small business just as you could a big one. So if you take the time to do it right, it doesn't actually matter how big it is. I have an agent on my team. I'll just share it with you guys. She started with me 4 years ago. let's see here. I can find it. I just like to be accurate. I don't like to make things up like most of the people on stage.
Oh, I love that. I appreciate that.
Remember, this person works on a 50-50. So a lot of people on the call, they would say, hey, I would never go work on a team, or I'd never have a partner because I'm not willing to give up that much. I just want to share with you guys what she did last year.
And she's been with you, you said, for how long?
5 years.
Okay.
What's 886,000 plus 170,000? That's at 1,056,000. She netted, not gross. She netted 1,056,000. She made gross 220,000 when she started with me in 2017.
Wow.
Do you think that person's ever going anywhere?
Yep. Wow.
Right. So I had to figure out a way. By the way, I made 1,056,000 too from that relationship, right? Because we're equal partners in that. So I had to find a way that we could have a business that would make that much money so that half of it would be her goal. Now, she's not satisfied with that. She wants to have something bigger. Well, one of the things I did with this particular young lady, she wanted to own a building, but she didn't have all the down payment. So I gave half the down payment. Now we own half of a building together.
Love that.
She wanted to own a real estate school, but she didn't have all the money for it. She didn't want to do it alone. So I gave her the part of the money, and her and I own a real estate school. So we are very intertwined now. I coach her husband on her husband's construction business. Like we are very married. That is a hard relationship to break up that neither one of us would want to lose. Now, those are big numbers. So don't think that it has to be that. It's sequential. When Jolene started with me 15 years ago, she started at $13 an hour as my assistant. Right? She's grown for 15 years. She didn't have to get to where she is today in 1 year. She had to earn that along the way, just like I did. And every day you earn the right to stay in business with your people, or every day you're getting a little bit further away from the people in your world, just like marriage.
Oh, I love that. Hold on. Okay. Say that again, Ben. Hold on. Every day.
It's like marriage. Every day you're working on your marriage, or every day you're working on being divorced.
Yeah.
Every day you're working on being partners, or every day you're working on separating. There is no staying constant.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't wake up every day saying, what could I do to provide more value to my people? Or what could I do to provide more value to this relationship? Or what could I do to make sure that everybody's happy and we're on track? Then the relationship is actually going in different directions.
Yep. Yep. Love that. Man, I hope you guys are writing as much as I'm writing. Holy.
I'm probably the only person you've ever brought on an Ohio region call that says shit and talks the way I do. So I apologize. And yet I'm always the same. I dress the same. I talk the same. I'm the same no matter what.
I would rather you say shit and be have authenticity behind you than not. So I appreciate that. I'm very.
We give lots of money to Kid Who Cares in advance to prepay for my potty mouth. I love Jesus, but I do swear a little.
Right. I have a t-shirt that says that actually.
Yeah, I have the same t-shirt, Dana.
I love it. I love that so much. Okay, quick question. I thought this was a great question. I'm trying to field these guys. So in the beginning, I can't remember who asked this, but I like this. They said in the beginning, what was the biggest factor to your growth when you were very first starting, when you were doubling, tripling, quadrupling your business? What was the biggest factor?
Let's go through a couple of stages, because I know there's agents on the call here at all different levels.
Right.
The first stage was, how do I get my business big enough so that I could either have leverage or invest into systems or marketing or whatever? And I came up with what I call basically the success secrets of real estate. And there's 3 things that every agent has to do to be successful. Number 1, you have to say the right thing. How much time are you going to spend learning scripts and dialogues? And I don't mean slimy, cheesy ones, but authentically role playing and memorizing and studying and writing questions and statements and objection handlers. Our team does it every day at 8:30. We've done it for 16 plus years, every day at 8:30, Monday through Friday, every week of the year. We role play and practice scripts. And I still do, right? So the first thing, are you going to take the time to learn how to communicate better? Number 2, say it enough times?
Mm.
Are you going to make a commitment to do the activity every day? That's a certain amount of dials or contacts or a certain amount of open houses or doors knocks or whatever. You have to set a standard for your activities on what you're going to do every single day of the week if you're going to call it a work day. For my sales team, it's simple. Everybody on the sales team calls 150 people a day. It takes roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours to do that. In addition, we follow up with any leads that have been assigned to us or any leads we have in our database. We all call our sphere. We try to touch everybody in our database at least once a month that are sphere past clients, friends.
Yep.
And then we all do 2 open houses a week. And we know that any agent who does that is guaranteed to sell a minimum of 24 homes a year. Most of them end up doing 36 or 48 or transactions. Well, that's enough to where you could afford an assistant or a showing agent or whatever. So the number 2 success principle is you got to do the activities. You have to say it enough times. The third success principle is have enough people to say it to. And that's a leads problem.
Yep.
So you have to decide where you're going to get your leads. Like, cool thing is our company's built a lot of great tools that allow us to generate leads really affordably through our Facebook ad tools. You put them into a CRM and then you nurture them. But there's lots of other ways to get leads. You could get canceled expires or FISBOs. You could buy lists to call. You could invest in pay-per-click advertising and have somebody do it for you. There's a million different sources of leads, but you got to have enough leads to feed your business. And if you do those 3 things, you're going to be successful. If you don't have a way to generate those leads, you should probably join a sales team because they have more leads than they can handle. They don't have enough talented, hungry people that want to work hard and make a lot of money. So there's good ways to do that. If you do those 3 things, you're going to get to 24 to 48 transactions. I guarantee it.
Yep.
Now, the next level is how do you move from being a real estate agent to owning a business? And that is really about finding and retaining talent, which we already talked about, and becoming a great leader. So as Dana's finding out that I have a list for everything. So I have what I call the 3 fiduciary duties of a leader. So once you're no longer yourself, you understand that you have duties as a leader that you have to do on a regular basis to stay in relationship with people. Number 1, you have to clearly set the standards and expectations for what success looks like in the role. Meaning not a list of everything that they're going to do, but what do they have to do to succeed? Whether it's an admin or a buyer's agent or a listing agent or a telemarketer, what are the bare standards? For our sales agents, for me, it was simple. $150 a day, 2 open houses a week. You got to work your sphere, following our sphere plan. You do those things and you follow with the leads that we give you. That's the standards for you to stay on the team. The second fiduciary duty of a leader, which is where a lot of us fall down, is you have to inspect what you expect. You have to know how to use the technology that you're forcing your agents and your sales team to use. You have to know the listing presentation as well as them. You have to know the buyer consult. You have to know the scripts, and you have to be willing to log in and see how many calls did your agents make? How many emails did they send? What is the plan that your admin is working on? How many tasks did they complete? You have to be willing to insert yourself and inspect, not to be like this micromanager, but to help improve the process. The third thing that you have to do to be an amazing leader is to provide the coaching, mentoring, and training for them to succeed in the role, in the 20%, the most important thing. And doesn't mean you have to do it. You could sign up for an admin training program. You could, for your admin, you could hire a coach for somebody. You could all go to a class. You could read books together. You could sit down and train them yourselves. What I did is I videoed myself doing everything. So I never had to say it twice. I just make them watch the videos. You need to provide that. If you do those 3 things and that person is still failing, it's probably the wrong hire. They aren't motivated, they lack energy, or you aren't a great match. If you are doing those things and it doesn't work, you feel okay letting them go. If you aren't doing those things, you owe that person a second chance. You sit down and say, Dana, I want to apologize. I didn't do my fiduciary duties as a leader, and I feel like we got set up on the wrong path, and neither one of us feel like we're winning right now. And I want us to come in every day and feel like we're both winning together. So here's what I'm going to tell you. We're going to start off, we're going to go through these together. Number one, here are the standards and expectations for you, and here are the standards and expectations you can expect from me going forward. Number two, here's what accountability is going to look like and what we're going to look at on a daily basis, or what you're going to text me every day. Number three, what training do you need? This is the training I'm going to provide. What am I missing? And you're going to work together to provide those three things. If you do that, you can bring in as many agents as you want. You can bring in as many staff as you want, right? You actually can have a great business.
Love that. I have so many questions, Ben. I'm like trying to put them all together. Okay, just because this is where my brain went. So I don't know how many people you have in all the many organizations that you said that you have when you very first started this. How many do you actually go deep with versus how many do you, actually, let me ask that a better way. Who do you talk to and really impact, and that then they go and do the rest? Like if you had to give a number of people, what would that be? Because many people would say, how do you keep up with it all?
Yeah. I think there was this big story that everybody said, and Gary's taught it for a long time, that you really should have 5 people reporting to you at all times, and anything more than that's going to be a struggle. I failed at that, and I have a lot more people in my world that I work with. I mean, we have nearly 90 companies in our world. And but here's the difference. I don't hire people that I consider to be employees. I hire people who I consider to be partners. And you don't have to hold partners accountable. Partners report back to you. Partners ask for help. Partners tell you what's going on, what's good and what's bad. Employees wait for you to tell them what to do. So if you build a world of employees, you can actually Gary's right, you can only have 5 or 6. But if you build a world where you consider everybody in your world partners, how many partners does Gary have? I don't know. 900 market centers and 50 regions and 180,000 agents and all these he has a lot of partners. And he can have a lot of partners because partners, right, are different than employees. Now, whether legally an employee or legally a contractor, that's not what I mean. But do you bring people into your world where you feel like there's a partner relationship? And since I do, it does not feel overwhelming. One of the tricks, Dana, is that I don't have conversations one-on-one with somebody that would benefit the entire group. So all the sales teams that work with me every Monday at 1 p.m., we all talk together on a Zoom, because everything I would say to one of them should be heard by everybody else, right? All my team leaders, we talk to my team leaders at once. I don't need to have one-on-one conversations with them because we all have the same problems. Every single one of us. Tech companies, Mondays 4:30, we all talk. Every department, because we all have the same problems, and we want that transparency. So I don't have a ton of one-on-one meetings because I have partners, and I don't believe that one-on-ones are great. I have one-on-ones when somebody's having a life problem or they need me or they have a brilliant idea, but I don't have one-on-ones just to have one-on-ones.
Yeah, love that.
I hate stuff on my calendar.
That is great. Yeah, I know. I asked Ben to do like a class, and I think your response was, "I'm not good with long-term commitments. So can we do something like this month?" I was like, "Perfect. Yes, we can." So I love that. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from working with Gary, having Gary as a mentor?
I consider Gary like I was texting with him on Friday. I said, Gary, I don't know if you're like a dad to me or a brother, or like my weird uncle, because we fight all the time and argue. But Gary supported me in all ways throughout my career. And we don't always agree, but I always know that his heart's in the right place. And I think one thing that Gary's taught me is that relationships matter more than money. And that if you're patient and you follow a plan, that things work out. One time when I was first getting to know Gary, he said, "Hey, send me a business plan. I like your idea." And I spent all weekend, and I made a cover page, and I designed a logo, and I made a table of contents, and it was 17 pages. It was a freaking work of art, Dana. And I sent it to him Monday morning. About 14 seconds later, Gary emails me back, "Please condense this down to 1 page and use a 135 format." Gary, no, like, "Hey, appreciate the logo, nice hard work," none of that. Just was like, "Hey, screw you, Ben. You need to cut this down to 1 page and quit wasting my time." Well, the gift in that was almost everything I put together was junk. By the time I condensed it down to one page, I had a business plan and I had a model and I had priorities and I had focus. He narrows your brain down to focus on what's the most important thing that you can do, or what's the first thing that you can do. And him and Jay probably best explain that in the one thing.
Yep.
But Gary lives the one thing life. That's one of the things I love about like Mo Anderson. Mo Anderson's the same way every single day.
Mm-hmm.
She's the same in person as she is on stage. She's the same behind closed doors. She's a phenomenal person, and Gary's very consistently the same.
Can't you tell the biggest difference in leaders in that? I mean, I love a leader who, what you see and then what you have a one-on-one, it's the same. It matches. They never change. And that to me is one of the greatest things to look for in leaders.
Yeah, I hate the leader that walks by and says, "You're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome." I'm like, you don't freaking know me. Like, don't say that. Like, say, "Hey, I'd like to get to know you." That'd be an authentic thing to say, but don't give me this like pat on the head, "You're awesome" crap. Like, you don't know me. You want to get to know me? Great. You don't want to know me? That's fine. I don't care. I have plenty of friends. That's what Facebook's for, right? Great leaders care about authentic relationships, not the number of relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. We have people ask all the time, and people have asked in the chat, and my text. So just so you know, I'm trying to go between all the text I'm getting, the chat, the other Q&A. So if I'm not getting to everybody, I apologize. Would you share a couple of impactful books that have made a difference in your life? And I think, Ben, that I just got this one, and I think you might have actually posted about that. Or no. Jay told me to read this and said that you told him to read this. And I'm a huge Winston Churchill fan. I know you are too. And so a couple of books that have made a big difference.
This is Winston. I have a bear behind me, so I work every day like I have a bear behind me. And I have Winston Churchill staring at me because Winston Churchill failed more than anybody that I know.
Yeah.
He really pooped the bed. Like, he screwed up all the time. He won World War II and then was fired from being prime minister the next week. Like, he has such a history of failures and successes. And I really think he was a profound leader. And that was an incredible book. There's another one, The Character and Greatness of Winston Churchill. If you want to nerd out, funny side story. I bought this really crappy stock a year ago on Robinhood for 53 cents. And it turned out to be one of the COVID vaccines. They're at like, I don't know, they're $250 a share today. Novavax, NVAX. I did really good on it, right? I mean, $1 million trade out of a $20,000 investment. Anyway, I took a portion of the money and I bought Winston Churchill's pistol. So if you're ever in Washington State and you would want to see Winston Churchill's pistol, I bought it. I own Winston Churchill's pistol that I bought with my crappy Robinhood stock that I.
That is crazy. So I have to tell you this, Ben, because you reminded me. So every year, Linda and Jim take me to the John Maxwell exchange event. Yeah. And 2 years ago, it was in London. And so John, when you do an event with John Maxwell, you get to do things other people don't get to do. Oh. And John took us to the bunker, but we got this, the special private bunker session where we went in the room where the wallpaper was still the same. Winston Churchill's, his chair with like the whole room had never changed. So his briefcase, the whole 9 yards. So we got to take our picture. We couldn't sit in his chair, but we got to hold the back of his chair and smile and take a picture. But it was one of the coolest experiences ever.
Lots of other books. I've been really focused on finding ways to teach wealth building to my people. Yeah. And become a better student of wealth. So I've read a lot of money books recently. The Simple Path to Wealth is a great book for those of you that feel like you're not on track for retirement or you don't really understand what to do with your retirement monies. I'd for sure read The Simple Path to Wealth. Gary highly recommended The Psychology of Money. I think that's an interesting book as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a few other ones. I reread for the third time last weekend, Man's Search for Meaning, which is by Viktor Frankl. And the first part of the book is telling the story of Viktor being in the concentration camps in Auschwitz. And it's a heart-wrenching story. But Viktor survived Auschwitz because he found a purpose for his life and a purpose to live. And the people that weren't murdered in Auschwitz, he made a comment. He said, many of those people died because they lost hope. Mm. And Victor was a psychiatrist, and he would meet with people that were suicidal, and he was known to ask them a very direct question. And he would simply say to them, why don't you go kill yourself? And bear with me. He asked them the question, and he said most people would come back and say, well, because I wouldn't do that to my spouse, or because I can't leave my kids alone, or because there's things in my life I still need to go accomplish. And the reason he asked that question is these people walked into his office feeling like all hope was lost and they had nothing to live for and that they were depressed. But here's the truth. They do have something to live for because they weren't willing to take their life that day. They have something to live for, whether it's their children, their spouse, or their something. And our search for purpose can get us out of some of the worst ruts and the worst holes we've ever dug in. So I'll give you two other books.
Yeah.
Probably the two most life-changing books of my personal life, aside from the Bible, would be The Untethered Soul.
Oh,
I read
love that book.
at least seven times. And it's a horribly hard book to read. The first time you're going to hate it. And as you continue to read it, it starts to make sense to you. And The Untethered Soul really teaches you about the greatest enemy in our life is our internal dialogues, our thoughts, and it's sabotaging us.
Mm-hmm.
The second book is The Enlightened Gardener. And my friend Brian Gubernick, Keller Williams agent from Phoenix, encouraged me to read it. And Brian asked me to read it, and I did. And there's one takeaway that I want to share with you all. In the book, they said, if you were to put water into a bucket, Dana, what shape does the water take?
Shape of the bucket.
Shape of the bucket. Thank you. In our life, our thoughts become the bucket, not the water. Our life takes the shape of those. So if you're constantly having problems or drama or relationship issues or money problems or whatever that is, that concept says that our life is just finding ways to fit into these thoughts that we have. So if we want to change our unhappiness or our financial situation or our limiting beliefs or whatever else, we have to first fix our thoughts. We are self-sabotaging ourselves. And I'm a perfect example of that. And in my search for contentment and happiness, I'm becoming students of these types of topics.
Yeah, love that. Actually, one of the questions we had that I just realized I skimmed through was, what do you do to break through kind of hard times or limiting beliefs or, those days that we all have?
Yeah, two things. This one's going to sound a little promotional, but there's nothing to sell. So I'm going to promote it, but we have no benefit. I have a process that I created called the 15-point plan that Chad Himes and my very first hire, Jillian Snell, launched a podcast on called the 15-point plan. So I heavily encourage you all to read that. But I created it because of myself and the people that I'd mentored and helped that were going through divorces or addiction or depression or big life challenges. And they felt like they're in a rut. So I came up with 15 things that you could do every single day. And if you did them on a consistent basis, you would be better. And I found that when I am between 4 and 8 of the 15, I feel bad. I gain weight. I feel depressed. I'm not motivated. I don't bring it every day. When I hit somewhere between 12 and 15, I'm on the game. So maybe you need to come up with your own 15-point plan or steal mine and say, what am I going to do every single day to ensure that my body has the energy and my mind is in the right spot and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do? It's as simple as movement, reading, hydrating, eating, just basic things that control our energy and our mindset. So check that out.
Where can they find that, Ben?
It's on any place you listen to podcasts. It's just called the 15-point plan.
Oh, it's a podcast itself.
Yeah, we actually called it. We named it. We launched it. There's a download. You can track all 15 things. There's free. There's no ads, no advertising, no commercials.
Okay, because I wanted you to touch on Win, Make, Give. So okay, perfect.
That's our second podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is no advertising, no promotion. It's just a gift. The second thing, and it's really important, is I give myself 15 minutes every night as a gift. and as a commitment that tomorrow is going to be better. And what I do for those 15 minutes is I take out a piece of paper with a Sharpie, and my world is filled with Sharpies and blank pieces of paper. I mean, everywhere. There's just Sharpies written. That's just what I do. And I first do one thing. I write a question. What does winning tomorrow look like? Not what's my list of things to do, but no, if I got done at the end of tomorrow and I gave Dana a high five and I said, Dana, I freaking killed it today. I got this done. I feel so much better. What would that one thing be? What would winning look like tomorrow? Not for the week or the month, but tomorrow. If I just won tomorrow, what would it be? Some days it could be, I'm going to get my taxes done. Some days it's going to be, I'm going to work out first thing. Some days it's going to be, I'm going to make 50 calls, or I'm going to have 2 interviews, or I'm going to get 10 price shows. It doesn't matter. You just come up, what does winning look like tomorrow? Write it down. The second thing I do is I review my calendar and I cancel 50% of everything that's on it.
Wow. Okay.
Here's why. Majority of items on your calendar are other people's priorities, not yours. If you feel busy and not productive, I guarantee you're spending too much time doing crap that doesn't matter. Most likely working with buyers that are unmotivated, sellers that are unmotivated, agents that are unmotivated, meeting with people that are unmotivated, sitting in group meetings or committees, or you're just doing things where it's not productive, or you're taking those times that are an hour long and making it last an hour when you really could have got that done in 15 minutes. So I want to have 50% of my time free every single day on my calendar so that I can work on what's important. Because the third thing I do is I make a list of my priorities. Priorities don't come out of your brain in the right order. So what I do on my blank paper, I just dump everything that I need to get done tomorrow on a piece of paper, and I try to come up with 5 or 10 things. And then I say, if I could only do one thing tomorrow, what would it be? And I write a 1 by it. If I got that done, what would be the second thing I accomplished? And I write a 2 by it. And then I write a 3 by it. Most days, I'm super happy if I got 2 or 3 of those things done. But when I'm unproductive, what happens is I got the wrong 2 or 3 done. I was doing what was fun or easy, right? It's like a team leader talking about, my market share is up, or I ran the office meeting, the ALC meeting. Yeah, but your number one priority was to get those appointments and you didn't do it, right? You took the easy stuff, the fun stuff, the thing that makes you feel good and smart and awesome, but you didn't do the thing you were hired for, right? So I make sure I make the list. What's the most important thing for me? Now, then I make sure I have time on my calendar for it, and I put time in my calendar for those 3 things. Okay. The next thing is I plan out my rituals, and not like killing chicken rituals, but like what am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to drink? What am I going to read the next day? And my goal is every 90 minutes to 2 hours is to give myself 10 or 15 minutes to hydrate, walk, read, listen to something, laugh, call a friend, whatever that might be, to get my energy back. You don't get your energy back by going on vacation once every year. You get your energy back by taking breaks every 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's how you have sustainable energy at the end of the day. So I plan it out. I put it on my calendar. What am I going to eat? What am I going to drink? Right? When am I going to exercise? Whatever that might be. When am I going to read? And then last, very simple, I just make a commitment to myself. I just simply say, Dana, I may not follow this forever, but tomorrow I'm going to follow this plan. And I say it out loud. When I wake up the next morning, I review the piece of paper I wrote on just so I know what's important and what winning looks like, and I go off on my day. The days that I do this, I win 80, 90% of the time. Doesn't mean things don't happen. The days I don't, I end up being busy but not productive. I end up feeling drained when I get home. We are drained because we get home, not because we worked hard, but because we weren't productive. When you work hard and you win, you get home and you're jacked up. You have adrenaline. I freaking killed it today. I took 2 listings. I recruited 2 agents. Like, I freaking won today. I don't care. We're getting ice cream. I'm winning or whatever, right? But when you get home and you were just busy and you can't think of one thing that you did to actually move your life forward, you get home, you're freaking exhausted. Yeah. You're not exhausted from the work. You're exhausted from not winning.
I love that. That is so good. You know, and I also said, I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt like last year I worked harder than I've ever worked. It was a different kind of work, but it was definitely harder. But I know it was because I would look up and it would be 10 hours on Zooms and I never took a break, you know, and that's true. I mean, you feel exhausted when you don't take the time to re-energize yourself. So I love that you said that. Love that. Okay.
In the
Go
Win
ahead.
May Give, in the Win May Give podcast, Dana, there is one episode called The Daily Plan,
Mhm.
and it dives into that process that I just talked about in a longer 30-minute period. So if
Okay.
you're interested in committing to living a daily plan, listen to the Daily Plan episode, and then give it a try for a week or two. And if it works out great, send me a message, let me know it's great for you, or what you learned, or what you tweaked, or how you made it better. But I think simple things like that, John Maxwell, who you're a fan of, one of the most impactful quotes that I heard when I went to Exchange was, systems make the ordinary extraordinary.
Oh, love that. Yeah.
If you want to have an extraordinary life and you're just kind of a regular average person like me, then add systems, because then average people can have extraordinary lives if you build your life around systems. So everything that I do is a system, a sphere system, a life system, a scheduling, a hiring process. Like everything to me is a system, a plan, technology, a process that we improve over time.
Yeah. I feel like people always forget what Gary says. When you feel like you're at your ceiling or your max, you're either missing a person or a system, or I think he says both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. Okay, so everyone's asking for the list of books. We'll send out an email, guys, to anybody who registered for this. We'll send out an email with one, the recording, and two, all of the links and the podcast and the books and all that. So Ben, a couple last things. One, thank you for not looking at your calendar and canceling this today. Of the 50% of things that you canceled, very appreciative of that. Two, as we move into another really crazy year where people are looking to get more balance and to grow their business and all those things, what would be just one or two pieces of advice that you would give just moving into this year, still with the pandemic and all the things that we've kind of gone through last year?
Sure. Here's one of the ways that you know that I follow the daily plan, because you and your team got an email last night saying that I didn't have the link for the webinar, and is it still on? So I asked myself the question, if I'm going to block this off on my calendar, are we still on today? And what are the details? And I review that the night before. I don't review it a week in advance. I reviewed it the night before, and I sent you a message that said, hey,
Yep.
Are we still on today? What's the login? It was late last night. Because I had a guest over, a buddy, one of our agents. So I did a little bit later than normal, but I reviewed my daily plan. And that's when I sent you guys the message. I reviewed my calendar.
Love
Anyway,
that.
so your question was if we could do two things. What was that? Sorry.
If you could give like one or two pieces of advice just for growth this year, what would it be?
We have to prepare for the worst. And if you do, by keeping your expenses low and keeping your activities high, no matter what happens in the world or the economy or the real estate market or whatever, you're going to win. Why don't you build a world where no matter what happens, you win, right? That'd be the first one. The second would be, don't build a business based on gross income or units or rankings. Focus on profit. The only conversation I have with my partners is, what is our profit?
Yep.
What is our percentage of profit? And if you focus on improving that, your business can actually grow as big as you want. Too many people get caught up on making more and doing more and having more people and selling more stuff. I'd actually rather make $1 million and sell 10 homes than make $1 million and have to sell 300, right? I would rather do that. Now, I live in the wrong market for that to be a reality. I need to move to Hollywood or somewhere, right?
Me too.
I'm not a Hollywood guy, I don't think. So I'm going to stick to what I know. If you focus on that, your life can, you could be as big as you want. Lastly, study money, study wealth, study the thing that's the product of being great at this industry that will protect your family and create freedom for you. Become a student of wealth and learn about it and read about it and study it and listen to it. And if you do that, we're going to win this year, and it's going to be pretty awesome. And we'll know that we won because Dana will invite me back, and I'll get to talk to Ohio again, and we'll have another fun call. And that's how we'll know that we all won.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. Actually, Jimmy McKissick says that all the time. The way that he and Linda overcame $600,000 in debt to where they are today is they became a student of wealth and money, and they read everything they could, and it was all that they studied. And Jimmy says today that he would say that that's what made them successful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
great advice.
in 2021, we should be humble. We should work hard. We should be kind. I think we need to be empathetic to people, to the situations and the hardships they're going through.
Yeah.
People are losing their lives that we know, and that's a tragedy, and we should be empathetic no matter what we think. People vote on both sides of the aisle. We should be empathetic no matter what they think. Like, if we could do anything to be better humans and to be better in business this year, is to simply be humble and empathetic, work hard, be kind. If you do those things, man, the world is your oyster. You should shuck it. So,
Yeah, totally agree. Could not agree with you more. So how do people find more, Ben? They obviously can go to your 2 podcasts. Anything else that you would want to share?
no, just like you guys did, I'll always respond. You can send a Facebook message or a LinkedIn, or you can send me a text or an email. My cell phone's really easy to find. It's on my Facebook and my LinkedIn profile. Anybody can message me, and I'll do my best to always respond to anybody that needs anything, no matter where you're at in your life. I remember walking by a top agent when I started, who's no longer with the company. And when I talked to him, and I was brand new, I was so excited to hear from a top producer. And he kind of looked at me like I was annoying and not good enough to speak to him. And I thought, gosh, if I ever figure this out, I'm never going to treat people that way. Like, I don't want to be impressed by people, and I don't want to impress people. I want to empower people. And if you listen to this call, here's what I want you to leave with. If a dumb shit guy named Ben that used to be a cable guy from middle of nowhere, Washington, that has a poor metabolism, can't tan, and isn't that tall, can figure this stuff out, like, it's going to be easy for me. And if you leave the call with that feeling, then we've won. And feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks, Ohio, for inviting me. Dana, you were a great friend to have on here.
Oh my gosh, Ben, you were just awesome. I know. Let's give Ben some love in the chat. Very gracious, very appreciative of you being so gracious with your time and your authenticity. Man, you are just real, and I appreciate it. It's very inspiring, and I know everyone else does too. And anything we can ever do for you, we are here, and I just am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Bless you guys. See you later.
You too, Ben. Bless you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for being on. We'll send you the recording, and we just appreciate y'all. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Thank you.